Super. BS.
Well, we did it. We played in the Super Bowl yesterday. We held the line, and GameStop is bigger than ever. It's now worth $6 million. And our MVP for Puppy Bowl just won the all-time best pup on earth. So, yeah, it's 3 for 3 is the way I'm looking at it. I beat Tom Brady for MVP of the Super Bowl. Everybody knows me, lovable baby boy Brank from Super BS, a podcast about video games mostly. Everybody saw my name yesterday. I was running on the field. Everybody knew me as the guy who crashed the field. And there was no penalty. They actually gave me MVP of the game. It was really actually kind of surprising.
He charged them bail. Like, that's how cool everyone thought he was. He charged the police with bail money, and they let him go.
Yeah, I said, you guys can pay me and release me immediately. And who is that lovely voice that I heard? Who am I joined by today?
This is just Jay Jolly, CEO of Broler Incorporated. We actually just dumped about $1.3 billion into Brocoin this morning.
Nice.
Things are going really well right now. We got this new product coming out called Truck Butts. Have you heard of that?
Truck Butts is what I'm all about, my bro.
Yeah.
Tell the listeners a little bit about these Truck Butts.
Yeah, these Truck Butts, everyone who has a pair of truck nuts has always been like, you know what, I would really love to go with this, a butt. So it's really just slap a butt on the back, and it jiggles as you go over jumps and stuff. It's the perfect gift for anybody who likes lifted trucks and country music.
That's a beautiful enhancement. I'm looking at probably $1 billion in sales by the end of the day. Which makes sense to me. I've put all my money into Truck Butts stock, and I've told the stonk market that we should go after this, and Wall Street Bets agreed. So it's there, guys. Go to the moon.
Reddit's on our side. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody saw how it worked. AMC, BlackBerry, they're all up millions of dollars compared to what they were a week ago. Everybody saw that. They're billions of dollars in value. And that's what we are, actually. We are now a video game / Super Bowl podcast. My favorite part of the Super Bowl, and I don't know if you liked it too, was the time when they gave each other hugs. They were on the field and they ran and they hugged the other guy, and then he fell because he just loved the hug. That was it. I think it was a pirate, and he hugged a different guy. Did you like that guy?
Yeah, I mean, hugs are cool. Hugs.
No, I mean, did you like that specific hug? That was one of my favorites. I think his name is Patrick, and somebody ran up and just gave him a big old hug. And then they didn't show it on camera, but they went and kissed him when he was on the ground. And so I think he won. That was what I saw.
Masks?
Well, yeah, they took their masks off to do a kiss, of course, as health protocol tells you to do. WHO says that you wear masks till you get next to someone. Then you both pull your mask down, you open mouth kiss, and then you put your mask back up because it's safe.
Isn't it? It's traditional in the land of Mascadia to first cough in the other person's face right before you kiss. Is that true? My research might be off on this.
I mean, I like to cough at people, but sometimes I don't have that in me. So normally I'll just hawk a loogie in their drink and then push it up into their lips just to make sure they get some of that. But no, I don't know if you saw that, but they hugged the red man, as I like to call him, the red team. They hugged him a lot. I mean, he just couldn't get anywhere. He'd run back, and then they'd jump on him and give him a big old bear hug. And those Pirates, I saw that they have a big number next to their name. So I think that they win. Everybody knows here at Super BS we're a fan of old Tim Brody. He's our favorite Super Bowler ever. Did you have any team that you liked in that nonsense yesterday?
No, I'll be honest, I did not watch it. So
you didn't? What did you do instead?
Not. I worked and I watched hockey yesterday.
Better be played video games. If you say anything other than play video games, you're going to have to give back your gamer card. Everybody knows how hard that is to do.
I pay a monthly on that.
Oh, man. Yeah, you got a power to the gamers, right? Or whatever GameStop's motto is. Oh, my bro. Okay. I got a lot to talk about, so I'll start with a little before I ask you what you've been playing, because it has been 2 long weeks of hard gaming nonstop. I played Destruction AllStars. Do you remember when that was announced? PS5 game?
Yeah, yes. I had completely forgotten about it though until we talked on the phone this week. Tell me about it.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing in some ways. I think it's pretty fun. You know, I paid $20 or $30 for PS Plus for a year. I found it on sale. Yeah, I am amazed to think that they thought they could get away with charging $70 for this, like ever, because it was supposed to originally be a $70 launch title. It's neat. It's essentially like Twisted Metal style game. There's no guns. You just ram your car into the other cars, and then you jump out of the car and run to get a new car. It's a multiplayer only game. You can play with bots, but there's no like story mode. There are a ton of people, like probably too many, because it's like a hero game, like kind of Overwatch or Apex, where every character has an ultimate ability and they have an ultimate car in this game, and the car has an ultimate ability as well. And I think a lot of the reason why they have just so many people, because it just feels overwhelming when you look at the roster, is just for representation, because they really should just have like 6 people, because it feels like they all play identically, or maybe like 8 or however many are in a match, or 10, because there's just so many people. I could like point out 2 of them from a roster of characters. If you put like it and Bleeding Edge, the game that came out last year from Insomniac, next to each other, I probably could point out 2 from Destruction AllStars. Otherwise, I would have no clue which one's Bleeding Edge, which one's Destruction AllStars.
So they look the same. I hadn't Bleeding Edge is another one I hadn't heard about in a long time. Like I remember when it came out, I was at E3 when they announced it, and I watched some people playing it, and then it slowly snuck out on the Games Pass, and then nobody ever talked about it again.
Yeah, if we would have done the podcast at that time, I could have talked to you about it, because I did play it, and it was very well made. I don't think it was like the best game ever, but I've talked about this at great length. I play Apex. I don't have time for multiple multiplayer games because they just eat up tons of time. Bleeding Edge.
Wait, how much time do you have for multiplayer games?
Probably infinite, actually.
Okay,
and that was what I was saying
wanted to make sure we're
second ago
on the same page here. Okay, keep going.
Anyways, Destruction AllStars. If you've got PS Plus, it's worth a check out. Looks beautiful. It uses the triggers in a neat way. I think it's a great free game. Like it's very fun. I cannot believe they were thinking about charging $70 for it. I don't think I'm going to play it anymore, but it was a very fun distraction for an hour or so. And then one more PS5 game I want to talk to you about before I hear what you've been playing about, or you've been playing about. I don't even like the idea of that. I played the Control Ultimate Edition, the next gen update.
How amazing is it?
I think we talked about this on the podcast. I wasn't huge, or no, we didn't. I talked to you about it on the phone. I wasn't huge into Control.
10 thumbs up? Is that what we're talking?
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's all the thumbs up that a human has and then some. Yeah, the game is the same. It runs a lot better. It runs at 60 frames per second now at a higher resolution. Obviously on PS5, the load times are incredible. And it has some of the DualSense trigger stuff where the triggers, you'll feel a rumble when you shoot. It is, I think, the Ultimate Edition on either Series X or PS5 is the way to play. And obviously, if you have a PS5, it comes with PlayStation Plus. But without talking too much more about the game, standard third-person shooter with kind of a unique plot made by the guys who made Alan Wake, Quantum Break, all that stuff, you can't really talk about it anymore without talking about all the controversy around this game. Have you been following any of it?
No, I know that it had, with the release date of this next gen version, I know there's some controversy around that, but are we talking game content or just development, or what's going on?
It's more like the publishing and the release. So kind of like what you just mentioned. So a lot of people were kind of confused when they announced that they were making a next-gen version, essentially, and you had paid $100 for Control with the Season Pass, you could not upgrade that edition to next-gen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had to buy Ultimate Edition. And they didn't date when they were going to release the next-gen patch. They just said early 2021 after they pushed it back. Mm-hmm. So then they started selling Ultimate Edition on sale during the holidays, just to like get people, because you could play it on your Xbox One or your PS4. So it's like, hey, buy this now, and then you'll get the next gen version.
Yeah.
Well, a week before they released it on PS Plus, they announced that it's free to every PlayStation Plus owner, user, whatever, like subscriber. And so if you had bought the Ultimate Edition on PlayStation, you were just kind of like SOL. It was like, hey, thanks for your extra money. So yeah, man, 505, the publishers, they've done a terrible job with just like all of the news around this game. The game itself is good, but the idea that there was no upgrade path, not even like $10 to upgrade, there was no way to do it other than buy it again. And then after people bought it, we're like, oh, hey, it's free here. Like you didn't need to pay for it at all. And then not offering refunds. I mean, I think that's way more interesting than the game itself. The game itself is serviceable and pretty fun, and I'm enjoying it a lot more because the load times definitely hampered my fun. That is enough about my PS5 corner, as I might as well call it.
What else does 505 make? The name sounds familiar to me. I know they did Death Stranding, right? But
I don't think they did They might have done it on PC. 505 Studios Publishing, they do a lot of stuff. 505 Games, let me just check my doodly real quick. So Sniper Elite 3, Bust a Move Online, a game that you'd know and love, and those are developed by them. So whoa, dude, if you look at their wiki, they got a ton of stuff like Bust a Move DS they published, Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life. I'm trying to see if there's a lot of big stuff, because honestly, Control is the biggest game.
Oh, okay.
I don't even see him on this list.
They published Hellblade.
Oh, and Abzu.
That's what I was trying to remember where I recognize the name from, because I talked to them at E3. I saw their Control presentation before the game came out.
Yeah,
and I remember the guy I was with, Chad, who was helping me do video stuff. He asked them if they were going to make an Alan Wake. He goes, "Can I ask you if you guys are going to make an Alan Wake sequel?" And they go, "You can ask me, but I'm not going to tell you."
Oh, that's funny too, because they actually don't, unless you guys were talking to Remedy. Like
it might have been
505
Remedy. It was the 505 booth that we were in.
Oh,
we're getting a presentation on Control.
Okay, and you're correct. Death Stranding is a 505 published game.
Yeah.
So on PC, not the Sony one where they published it there. Yeah, man. Anyways, that stuff to me is more interesting than the game. I haven't gotten to the part where you get the powers, or even past where I was on Xbox, which is only maybe a couple hours in. But whenever I get through Cyberpunk, I will play it. What have you been playing though? I've been ranting on and on and on about this PlayStation 5. What have you been playing since the last time I talked to you? Probably a million games, right?
Yeah. Yep. A million. And by a million, I mean 2. I downloaded after years and years of hearing people talk about Five Nights at Freddy's. I downloaded it and
your favorite game of the year.
Played it, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why people like this game so much. You're literally just sitting in a security booth the whole time.
Too highbrow for you?
Yeah, right. I mean, I spent probably about 20 minutes Googling in the beginning how to move. And it turns out that you don't move. You just sit in this booth and you have to open and close doors before the power runs out.
You look at like video, cameras, right? Like
video
cameras.
Yeah, because you're looking to see if like the animatronic guys are moving around and how close to the booth they're getting. And they got me a couple times, but it's a very anxious or anxiety ridden game. But it's not. I don't know. It's boring. Outside of the anxiety factors, it's just boring. You don't do anything.
I'm hearing that you love it. That's the main thing I'm hearing right now is that it's your favorite game of the year.
It's my game of the year for the past 8 years.
So I'm hearing you have some problems with Five Nights at Freddy's, but you played 2, 3, 4, and 5, correct? So you could get more into it?
Yeah, okay, so that's another thing. Like I was thinking about jumping into those other ones because I saw that you actually like move around in those ones.
Oh, you do? Okay, I've only seen a video of the maybe just the first one, the one where you look at the security cameras.
Yeah, that's the first one. And then I from what I understand, like there's another one where you're like crawling through an air vent and stuff. So I don't know. I just I uninstalled them on Games Pass, and if I feel like going back and playing them again, which I probably won't, then I can just reinstall it. But that was just not a great experience. I just was trying to see what all the fad was. I know my nephew really loves that game, and so and I see like. now we went to Sam's Club the other day and saw they're publishing kids books on Five Nights at Freddy's. So I don't really know like how.
So weird, man. It is
Yeah,
so
it's
strange.
such a weird fad because they now sell toys at Target. I don't know. It's just weird. I was trying to understand it. Anyways,
real quick, to
yes,
that
tell
point
me.
though, about what you talked about at Costco, like the stuff that kids like, before the last year, I worked with children a lot. I was like a children's entertainer essentially, and I would talk to them and ask them what they like. And when it came to video games, which, not every kid loved, but when they would talk about video games, the stuff that the ones who weren't just playing Roblox and Fortnite and Minecraft, like, I always found so weird. Like, there would be little girls who would love Cuphead. They had never played it. They watched someone play Cuphead. That was like their thing. So they knew all the characters, but they had never played it. Or Undertale. They knew who Sans was, but they had never played Undertale. They had just seen it.
That's what this generation does, though. They watch people play video games instead of playing them themselves.
Yeah,
I don't understand it.
And then there's Five Nights at Freddy's, and the other one that's like, and I don't know if Five Nights at Freddy's is a bad game. I won't call it that because I didn't play it. Sounds like you did, and you don't think it's good. But the one that I know is supposed to be very bad that kids love is Hello Neighbor, like a game where you essentially sneak into your neighbor's house. I don't understand the next generation. I hope that they don't have any buying power because I don't want to see these games made in mass.
Well,
but
yeah, and this is a conversation for another time. But I mean, I remember when God of War came out, Corey Barlog was talking about this when he's saying that, there's a generation of kids coming up who like don't have the mental capacity for these big story-driven games because you actually have to like solve puzzles and all that. They want something that has like instant gratification. And I think it's gotten so bad to the point where like they don't even want to play the game themselves. They want to be able to like scrub through things, and that kind of makes me afraid for the future of video games.
Yeah, if we ever find time to get back to topics, that is probably a topic worth having a discussion, is the future of gaming as pertaining to the next generation. But a game that the next generation probably will hate to death, The Medium. What do you tell us about it? I only turned it on for like a few minutes, so I don't know much about it.
I'm actually really enjoying my time with it. I didn't think that I would enjoy it as much as I did. I just kind of wanted a break from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and so I.
Are you close to finishing Valhalla or no?
No, I'm not even close to finishing that game. So and we'll talk about that later. But so with The Medium, like it was not what I thought it was. I know we had talked about this on the phone, saying like, hey, there's no combat and stuff like that. Like I was expecting, Alan Wake style game. But it's really like you're solving a mystery, and you have the ability to like walk among the living and then walk in, like, I guess you'd call it purgatory. It's like this on what the other side of the veil looks like. And you have to solve puzzles, and you have to use your ability to like go to this other world and maybe manipulate something so that you can come back into the real world and see and walk through a door or something. The game's fun. I mean, it's creepy. It's really creepy, and I always tell you about how I don't like Resident Evil games very much because like they give me anxiety because I'm always being chased by something in those games. In this game, in The Medium, you spend a lot of time getting chased by this big like creature as you're trying to solve this mystery.
Mr. X. He's wearing a trench coat and a hat, and he's blue.
Yeah, and so like it's just, I don't know, like I'm sitting there trying to, you have to like go around boxes and stuff, kind of like I guess Metal Gear Solid style, where you had to like sneak around the warehouse where the boxes were. Yeah. And in this one, you're sneaking around like purgatory or whatever it is, and you're trying to not get this giant demon thing to see you. But the moment he sees you, he runs over and he like swoops you up. And as I'm doing this, I feel my heart going brrrr in my chest.
Oh no!
And he just like it's so weird because there's no warning about when this guy's going to show up. He just materializes out of nowhere. So I'm about halfway through the game, and I haven't like figured out like who this thing is or what it wants. But you were at this hotel trying to figure out your past and solve the mystery where this massacre was, and you end up with more questions and you get answers. But I'm hoping that it all come unraveled in the end. That being said, I am enjoying the game. It's a short game, but there's a lot to explore. You're kind of going through this dilapidated hotel, trying to figure out what happened. There's a lot of like gruesome things happened here, and it's got a really good story that I'm digging so far.
Yeah, a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
How many hours in are you?
4 hours.
Oh, okay, so you're roughly halfway, according to the internet. They say it's between 6 and 8 hours, so you might be close to the end. And then the other thing that I've wondered is, because I turned it on, but I didn't get to this point. The big thing they were showcasing when they were announcing it for Series X was the idea that you could switch between the two planes, the spirit realm or whatever, and the normal realm, and it was like either simultaneous or immediate. How is that? Like, how does that feel?
So that's the purgatory thing I was talking about. I'm just assuming it's purgatory. But yeah, it becomes a split screen, like a vertically down the middle. They split the screen. It shows what you're doing in this world, you're also doing in this one. So you have to look at both screens to find, the little glimmers in the wall where it helps you figure out like what you need to do, what you need to manipulate.
Do you feel that there's enough screen space in the game for it to be split that way? That sounds like awful to not see the whole screen.
Yeah, I guess, again, it depends on how big your TV is, but a lot of there's a big portion of the game has that side-by-side play, and when you see something in like the spirit world that you need to interact with or a door you need to go through that's blocked on your side, you hold down B and you actually like move all into the spirit world, and you have to go in there and figure out how to open that door so that your physical self can get in. The only thing that I don't like about that is that you only get about 10 seconds before like your body dissolves and you die.
Oh, wow.
So it's it's not too distracting. You don't do it the whole game, but when you're chasing spirits or whatever, trying to like help the spirits move on to the next world, you end up with that side by side.
How, because I know you played it as well, how similar is it to their last game, Blair Witch?
The movement's kind of the same. The lack of combat is the same principle. You're solving a mystery, same principle. I didn't like Blair Witch because it was boring. The medium really just throws you into the story automatically. You get a taste of what her powers are, what her past is, what this world is. With the Blair Witch, you spend the first 30 to 40 minutes of the game trying to figure out what's going on, where are the clues that I need, and it's just you don't really know anything about the story until further into the game, whereas this one just kind of starts you off and throws you in there.
Yeah, I mean, I never played the Blair Witch. The reviews were pretty bad. Medium came out and the reviews were slightly better, so I turned it on, but that fixed camera perspective and the movement speed and kind of what I imagine the game is, because the opening is like, hey, you look at the thing and then you try to find the other thing and then you look around, blah, blah, blah. You look at something closer and then you can look at something even closer in that special area that you're looking. I didn't vibe with it, and there's so many other things to play that I just can't not do it. Before I talk about those other things to play, do you have anything else you want to add about the medium, or do you think you'll finish it?
Yeah, I'll finish it. I mean, I'm already about halfway through, if not farther. So I'll sit down and finish it. I don't think it's going to make any game of the year spots for me, but it's a I don't know, it's a nice distraction. Yeah, I guess if you could call it that.
Yeah, I kind of feel similarly about Hitman 3 in some ways. I feel like it could make my game of the year spot because I think it's incredible, but it's just not a game for me. I loved it. I beat it. I've gone back and started playing through some of the old levels. I mainly just they have these story missions that will take you along and show you hey, if you're the chef, then you can poison the food, and then the guy will eat it and die and whatnot. And so I've been doing a lot of those because they're a lot easier to follow other than the free form part of the game where it's just hey, do whatever. And when you're doing free form, you could still stumble upon those story missions and do that. I do plan on getting back to it. While I said I did finish the main game, I've been going through Hitman 1 and 2, the levels, because like I said, they're all imported into Hitman 3. So I've been, I'm 80% done with the main stories in the original Hitman in Hitman 3. So I'm in Bangkok, which is super dope, and you're in this hotel. But yeah, I really dig Hitman 3. I just like what you said where you're it's not going to make any game of the year lists. There is a year here where I could imagine Hitman 3 made my list If we did a top 10, I'm sure it'd make it. But it would have to be a pretty slow year. Something that I love, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I haven't finished it yet. I'm kind of wrapping up stuff, like I'm doing the best quest. Cyberpunk 2077. I'm now 50 plus hours into that. Yeah, man, it's such a great game. I can't recommend it enough to anyone who has a next-gen console like a PS5 or a Series X. I am starting to feel about it the way I felt about Skyrim, kind of like that first time when you play it and you're like, whoa, okay, yeah, like, you know, I'd already played Oblivion and Morrowind and Fallout 3, but it's still just like this, there's just something there. And yeah, Cyberpunk is bugged to all crap. Like, things will float. I'll have to reset the game because stuff will be stuck on the screen. Sometimes, like, audio will cut out. That stuff blows, but I don't think it was any worse than Skyrim. Skyrim was crazy buggy at launch.
Yes, yeah. And then I remember it had all those glitches where, like, you couldn't turn in certain quests and you'd have to, like, reset your game. And you had NPCs that you needed to go on in the game end up getting eaten by the dragons or something. Yeah, Skyrim was super buggy. You know, now that you mention it, like, Skyrim is like an acclaimed game and nobody complained about the glitches at all, but poor Cyberpunk is getting just like thrown under the bus at every opportunity.
Yeah, 2 class action lawsuits, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love that game, man. I'm gonna finish it. That's kind of, you know, unlike my normal routine, it may sound like I'm playing a lot, but pretty much the only thing I'm playing now is Cyberpunk, and then I'll do like my dailies in Apex. Like, I'll turn on these other things for a few minutes, but I'm not kind of even playing them even half as much. And the last thing, I think this is the thing that everybody wants to hear about. It's the most important thing we've ever talked about on the show. It's called Balan Wonderworld. Do you know what this is?
No, I've never heard of this.
It is a demo for a game called Balan Wonderworld. They showed it at the Series X. It was like a pre-show for their launch thing. It's made by Yuji Naka, the original creator of Sonic. It looks batshit insane. It's kind of like Nights, his last big game that I know, Nights into Dreams. I'm sure he's done other stuff between that. Anyways, I was pretty interested in it. Like, the idea of it is you put on these costumes and you could do different things. And I was like, oh, it looks like it might be a Super Mario Odyssey style game. It is insane. But yeah, so I turned it on, and yeah, it's weird. You can choose between, what is her name? Like Emma Cole and Leo Craig. That's the boy or the girl option. Leo Craig is the boy, of course, 2 first names. And
how generic.
Yeah. And you end up following this weird, most likely pedophile, into a theater where he does a magic trick, and then you follow him into a mirror. And then the demo starts, and you're in a farm world with a giant farmer who does not have any animation, really. And he just stares at you, and it's really creepy. And then you go into a world where there's really nothing to do, and every button does the same command, so they all jump. And then when you get a new costume, they also do different jumps. And yeah, man, it is the dumbest game I think I've ever played. I can't recommend it enough just to try it out. I will, you know, I went from like curiosity, like maybe buying this, to I will not buy this at all. I technically, you know, when it goes on sale or if it goes to Games Pass, like if it's dirt cheap enough, I might try it just because it's funny. But it's $60, dude. It's coming out in March. It's a $60 game. There is literally the levels are so simple that all you do is like jump. It's insanity to think a kid would like it because it looks like somebody did acid or LSD and then they made this game in a night, and they had no budget. So they just got this, like, whatever the trippiest element of their trip was. And yeah, I don't know who it's for or why they made it or anything about it. But if you want a blast and just looking at something and being like, how? And then Square Enix is going to sell it to you for $60. So please give them that money. Yeah, I played that, I want to say a little bit over a week ago, and that is literally bonkers. We got an S-ton of news to talk about, and we got a short episode today. So can I take us to that sweet, sweet break so we can come back and talk that news?
Oh, is that a question? Is that a rhetorical question?
No, I'm talking to myself when I say, can I take us to that sweet, sweet break?
Do you have the ability is the important thing.
I have the ability to do everything, okay? We could be heroes just for the one day.
We could be heroes.
Super BS. Super BS.
Now we are back. It's Super BS. As you know, we never do anything on our breaks besides party hard with Wayne and Garth from the Super Bowl ad, specifically 60-plus-year-old Dana Carvey and
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. Those are the guys that we party hard with, Garth. This has been a weird week of news. I don't think anything's too surprising, but some of it is crazy.
Can I throw a wild card in here for a second?
Do it.
What do you think about the rumors of a second Halo game currently being in development? Does that make you feel good? Yeah, there's a second Halo game in development right now. How does that make you?
Where are you getting this news?
From IGN.
Okay, let me see. New Halo game. I haven't heard this at all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Unannounced Halo games. Are you sure they're not just twisting what that team said though? I can't imagine.
Know. I don't know, but that's what I was going to ask. With all the concern over the multi-generation Infinite,
yeah,
it seems weird that they'd have a second game in development right now. And if it was, it's probably going to end up being like a Reach or an ODST little spin-off thing. But still, it just seems like you should put all your manpower towards making this game, this like mainline entry, before you start working on side stories.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I honestly think that's like a misunderstanding. Unless it's Halo Wars 3. If it's Halo Wars 3, yeah, sure. They're probably, that's a totally different team that handles it, kind of a totally different game. But if there's actually a new Halo that they're spending more time on instead of Halo Infinite, this could be the end of that franchise. Because that feels like what Resident Evil was doing when they almost lost everything, which is like throwing everything they can at the game. I think, though, honestly, I don't think that's going to happen. I should ask you that question, though. What would you think if they did that?
I'm all for more adventures in the Halo universe, but right now I think Infinite's the important one they need to focus on. And my first thought was a little bit of excitement just to say, hey, maybe this is something that bridges the gap between Halo Guardians and an Infinite, because there's a pretty big gap between those two games, and but that's the only thing that would excite me for this. Otherwise, I think they should be putting their assets where they need to go. They need to prioritize.
Yeah, I really doubt there's a full mainline or even a spin-off first-person style Halo game. If it is, it's probably not being developed by 343. It would probably be developed by another one of the tons of companies that Microsoft has purchased recently. But yeah, man, I don't know. That's just so much conjecture. We'll see. I feel like IGN's jumping on a rumor mill. Like we had a rumor that we talked about a few weeks ago about the Microsoft stuff where there's like these 10 rumors. Halo wasn't there. I just don't see it happening. But let's get to some funsies news, some real talk news. Judgment, the Yakuza spinoff. That's coming to Xbox Series X and PS5. It will, it's the first time it's coming to Xbox now. Did not come to Xbox One. Coming in April. I'm super stoked. Oh, and Stadia. It's coming to Stadia. I forgot to say that. We have more Stadia stuff to talk about. It's coming to Series X though, and PS5 and Stadia for $40. I'm pretty stoked. That was a game I actually really liked on PS4. I didn't get very far between the load times and the PS4 not being my main console. I only put about 12 hours in, and in a Yakuza game, that is nothing. That might as well be the beginning of the game.
So is it a legit spinoff? Does it exist truly in the same universe as Yakuza?
Oh yeah, it's 100%. So it's like a modern day in the same Kamurocho that the Yakuza games are in, but you play a detective. So it's just a different style game, and it's a lot easier. Outside of Like a Dragon, before Like a Dragon, there was no easy way to enter the Yakuza series. You had to start at 0, and then did you want to play all of them? You know what I mean? You could start at 0, but there was 6 or 7 games with 0 that were all part of that one mainline series. Yeah. So this was kind of like just, hey, here's a spinoff. Try what this game style is like. Mm-hmm. I dug it. The load times were bad, and it ran at 30 frames per second. I've become a framey boy here recently. I kind of don't want to play games that run at 30 anymore. I'm like a 60 or no dice. Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be good. I might wait and not pick it up at 40 immediately just because like I already bought it once. So, I'll probably pick it up at 20. But yeah, I'm super, super excited. Again, like a lot of games coming to PS5, that I don't think there's an upgrade path. So that's kind of another bummer. Like I can't just put in my PS4 disc. I have to buy the next one. Speaking of Stadia, though, this is not surprising news, but kind of huge news. Google Stadia, this was like February 1st, so a little bit over a week ago, shutting down all internal game studios. Yeah, man.
That was a short-lived journey.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I want to say we started talking about Stadia before it came out, and we had stopped the original Super PS right before it came out.
Yeah.
It is crazy to think that's only been about almost 2 years' time. And yeah, I think the Stadia dream is dying.
It honestly, like, everyone kind of predicted this in the first place. They said that, like, people just aren't ready, especially with like Games Pass and, was it PlayStation Plus? I think this is just another. It's cool. It's a very cool concept. It's just not something that is going to amass a large amount of profit, though.
Yeah, you called it. And I think a big problem that I have with the whole scenario is, one, you didn't own the games. Like, you owned nothing but the license. So if this does go away, you lost your money. They were full-priced games. There was no real Netflix-style service you could pay for. And their subscription service had like one game a month. So it was worse than PS Plus or Xbox games with gold. And yeah, man, I think Google is just too prideful of a company. I think there are all of these like too big to fail mentalities where it's like, oh, we're Google. We don't even need to advertise or work on this thing. People will come to us. And the people didn't come. And so they're shutting stuff down. Google Stadia is still going to be around. They're working as like third parties to bring stuff to it. I would not be surprised if in 1 year's time, this Stadia is only used in terms of as like, oh, PlayStation is using Stadia as the back end for their cloud services.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, what do you think about this whole story?
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, it didn't surprise me. It was a very short-lived journey for them, and what I think is the biggest shame is the fact that they took all this talent from other like studios and other productions and put it into this
employees.
This Stadia thing, and now their jobs have been filled. They can't go back to where they were before.
Yeah, I mean, Google's supposedly going to help transition some of them. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of the 150 people who just lose their job and, good luck to them style mentality. But yeah, I don't know, man. I really think this was a bad idea. I've never played the Stadia, but I've heard the controller is crappy. I've heard it feels like cheap plastic. They never even put it on most Chromecast devices. You had to buy a specific one for Stadia. Even now, it's not on just normal Chromecast devices. Yeah. It is mind-blowing how bad of an execution this idea was. Like, besides Cyberpunk, which is the only win I've heard, most games run worse on Stadia than like a traditional console. So that's crazy.
Well, everyone was like, especially according to all the podcasts that we like to listen to, they were talking about Stadia being cool because you could run something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey on a old Chromebook, but that was like the only thing people were talking about.
At ultra graphics, like the highest graphic settings. Right,
but they weren't talking about like, oh, it's going to put some cool games out there. It's really going to test the limits of whatever it is. They thought it was cool for the fact that it existed. There wasn't really anything lauded about it.
Yeah, I feel bad for all the developers who lost their job, but I have to imagine a decent amount of people saw that this was coming. I'm sure there's still, Stadia defenders out there, and I totally get it. Like, you like the thing. This is probably the future. Cloud gaming is probably the future, but that future might be 5 years from now still. You know what I mean? Like, just because like somebody makes something and it can be good doesn't mean people are going to glom onto it if there's like no real need. Like, console gaming's cheap enough. Computers, if you want that ultra graphics, are expensive, but they can be used for multiple purposes. And at least there you can feel like, hey, these companies aren't probably going to let me lose all of my money I put into it, and my games will disappear one day.
And if you think about it too, like Steam kind of already does what Stadia was trying to do. Google just wanted that market. So I don't know. It seemed like it was something that couldn't compete from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, Steam doesn't have the cloud service where you can play on your phone. You can play with what are they, Steam Links? The thing that also failed them. So you could put that in another room and play from a Steam Link, but you had to have your computer that used from it. But I do get what you mean. Like the idea that you could buy all your stuff and have it in one place. But like a lot of these companies who enter the market super late, like even Epic Game Store, right? They've been giving away games and doing all this stuff, but they're so many years behind Steam. It's so hard for them to catch up. They're never going to get like that market parity that they want. But, I mean, the difference between Epic Games and Google Stadia is Epic hasn't charged. I mean, the games are cheaper there, and you can get a ton of free stuff, and you can download them onto your computer. There's like other stuff that Stadia just doesn't have. Like I'm glad I didn't buy anything on Stadia. Who knows if those licenses are going to work in a year's time.
Right.
So,
right.
Speaking of weird stuff with game studios, the Embracer Holdings, whatever they call, I forgot their full title. They acquired Gearbox. A lot of this news coming from IGN, by the way. Thanks, IGN. They acquired Gearbox, the creators of Borderlands, in a $1.3 billion deal. Do you know who Embracer is?
I do not.
Okay, so they are THQ Nordic, that huge company. So like the Embracers Group, according to this, existing operating groups include THQ Nordic, Saber Interactive, Koch Media, DECA Games, Amplifier Game Invest, and Coffee Stain Holding. THQ Nordic like owns so many different licenses right now and different things. Like they own Kingdoms of Amalur and the SpongeBob remake that came out last year. They have the Biomutant, the game they've been talking about, that also is that. They also have Aspyr Media, which is they're like the Mac port people. They ported like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and a lot of other stuff to, if I'm remembering correctly, to Mac and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, man, it is insane. So according to this, Embracer now has access to more than 200 game franchises and more than 5,500 employees. They are becoming a force.
Yeah, I wonder like how much is too much here, like, and also what does this mean for Randy Pitchford? Are they going to not let him do magic shows anymore?
Oh yeah, he's not allowed to have child pornography inside of a medieval times. That is his punishment.
They're hiring somebody specifically to follow him around to make sure he doesn't drop any more flash drives.
Yeah, man, that guy is such a weirdo. And in those last few years, he's kind of become like a villain to a lot of people. I haven't followed it enough, but he just sounds like kind of like a very egotistical individual, because Borderlands 2 did so well. And he sounds like a creep because of all this other stuff. But he's going to be there. He's joining the company. I don't know why, but maybe they'll stop him from talking, because from what I gathered from a lot of people, that was like one of the worst parts is people didn't want to see him anymore. You know what I mean? They wanted him to like disappear, and he wasn't having that, which, I get it. It was a company he made. I just think 1.3 billion is a lot. A lot for Gearbox. Like, besides Borderlands 3, all of their other recent entries have been stinkers, and I didn't like Borderlands 3. So
yeah, I mean, Borderlands 3 wasn't my favorite. Like, I much preferred the cartoony aspects of Borderlands 2. Yeah. What it makes me wonder, though, is like, what's in the pipeline? There's obviously something big that they're working on. Otherwise, they wouldn't. I don't think they would hold the value that they have. So there's obviously some potential seen there. And I know that they're not publishing the games. They're just 2K's keeping their contract as the publisher of the Borderlands games. And they said in an interview that for this Borderlands and the future Borderlands entries, so they must be working on something.
I don't know, man. More hobby grade stuff, as their old comment was with Battleborn, their last title. Hobby grade professional media. Yeah, I don't know. Some people think Embracer Group's like a drug cartel front or something. Nobody knows. Like, they have so many game franchises at this point that they own. Like, I don't know. They're like, it's weird because they own so much, but I feel like they care so little about quality that when I see THQ Nordic, I normally think like, oh, that's the B game or the A, like not the AAA game, the A game, the $40, $30 budget title. They must be making money or be doing other mischievous and dark ways of making money because, man, like this. The whole thing is bonkers, but we'll see. I'm interested to see what the future of this is. I am just amazed that somebody saw them and were like, hey, we'll pay you $1.3 billion, especially if you're correct. And 2K is still getting to publish those games. I mean, I still think that means that like the cut that Gearbox would get goes directly to Embracer now, but still like they get a cut as publisher, and Embracer is a publishing group. So it's like weird to think that they'd be cool with that.
Well, I'm imagining there's existing contracts in place that were not breakable.
Yeah, I mean we've seen that before with Microsoft and like Outer Worlds and a bunch of other stuff where they either honored it or maybe they weren't breakable. But I don't know, man. I just think it's weird that somebody valued that because like I feel like Borderlands 3, and this is my personal opinion, is probably the worst Borderlands game of the trilogy, honestly, because even like 1, at least at the time, it made sense. Like Borderlands 3 was like, I feel like they learned nothing from 2 and they only barely glimpsed at modern first-person shooters. Like I know we had this discussion, I want to say we had this discussion on Old Super BS with Dr. Donna. I thought it was insane that Borderlands 3 only had 4 classes. And, we had all discussed like, oh, they'll add more classes. They never did.
Yeah. My big beef with Borderlands 3 was the fact that like it was a game made for people who are very like veterans in like skill building trees and stuff like that. Whereas like Borderlands 2 was appealed more to the average gamer.
Yeah, I didn't even get that far into it, man, that I even know that. But I found Borderlands 3 underwhelming at all things. It like Watch Dogs 3, Watch Dogs Legion, are like two of my biggest regrets in the recent years of $60 titles I purchased. Like, I should have waited for both those games to be on the deep sales that they are. We're going to end a little bit early, but I want to end with this last news story. So ESA, I forgot what it stands for, but anyways, they're the people who put on E3. They are
Electronic Software Association, isn't it?
Oh, you're probably correct. I couldn't even find what the acronym stands for here. Anyways, they said that they're going to talk about their plans for their E3 this year. It's going to be digital. We do know that. But I'm kind of surprised, to be honest. They
didn't really have an E3 last year.
No, they canceled it altogether. It was Jeff Keighley's thing. No, I'm just surprised they're doing anything at all. Like, I honestly thought last year was the death of E3. Like, I get that this doesn't cost a lot of money to host digital content. Like, it probably is pretty cheap versus renting an entire building in downtown LA, a huge conference center. Yeah. But still, I'm kind of amazed they just didn't give up, to be honest.
Yeah, well, everyone's been predicting that E3 was going to die for a long time, and everyone thought that the COVID thing was the nail in the coffin for them, but it looks like we were not correct about that.
I mean, I don't know, man. I still think that was the nail in the coffin, but I guess they're gonna do this. I just wonder what this is gonna be. I'm hoping it's better than last year's, because that last year's Jeff Keighley's Summer of Gaming, I personally didn't vibe with me, and I felt like the announcements we got out of it, besides the Tony Hawk remake, they were all lame. It wasn't like something special. So
I mean, it was a lot of small titles, and the thing is, a lot of like the big groups that are at E3 usually went off and did their own thing, so it wasn't, they're kind of combing the bottom of the barrel here. So I'm sure there could be some cool announcements, but it just, with all the other things that are out there, I don't know how popular it's going to be, or if many people are going to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I am really curious about that. Like, does Microsoft join them again? Is the part of their 3-day thing, is that going to be a Microsoft press conference, or is Microsoft just like, hey, I do it on my own? I mean, we know Sony's pretty much abandoned them. We know Nintendo's pretty much not doing any directs anymore. So who is showing up? Square Enix?
I know. And then Bethesda, I think, dropped out of last year's too, right?
Yeah, Bethesda's now Microsoft. So they don't even need a press conference anymore. Yeah, man, it's going to be weird if Microsoft doesn't join them. I think it's DOA. It's pointless, but
Yeah.
we'll see. One last thing before we leave, I just had to bring this up. Supposedly, you know how Anthem was going to be rebooted? Like they're going to make Anthem again. I guess they're doing an internal review right now, and they may just abandon that project.
Really?
That would be
interesting. You can pick the game up from most stores right now for like $10, if not cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say it would be that surprising, but I just think it would be weird after they kind of touted the Anthem Next, thing, and they were going to try to revitalize it, like just to be like, hey, it's not worth it, and give up. I mean, maybe, hopefully that would lead them to better things if they don't, get rid of all of those developers.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know, man. The whole thing is weird. But yeah, weird week of gaming news. We will find out a lot more. Hopefully next week, we will talk about that off air to figure out what we're going to do, my bro. But as always, I'm going to watch Super Bowls on repeat all day today. That's all I'm going to do. That's all I do every day. So anything that you are going to do this evening besides watch Super Bowl again?
Just to watch the Super Bowl, maybe watch the Puppy Bowl.
Yeah,
maybe watch Grey's Anatomy. I don't know. It just depends on where the night takes me. I'm
gonna watch Roswell, that '90s show that everybody loved. That's what I'm gonna watch. Okay.
Yeah, I just got done ripping through some seasons of Seventh Heaven, man.
Oh, so, my goodness! I was about to say Seventh Heaven. Seventh Heaven. Boo-doo-doo. Yeah, I love it, bro. Okay, till then, amen.